Welcome to starting a great discussion. The very beginning of a discussion is one of the most critical parts of a great discussion. A facilitating mentor and leader will put in the necessary investment in order to make each discussion a transformational experience. Set the energy, the tone, and momentum from the get-go, which actually means before you meet for the discussion itself. First, we'll talk about setting the stage. Make sure the time, location, and expectations of the discussion are properly set and well communicated. Consider having refreshments, extra pens, maybe some extra notebooks, or other things that might make it special. So this also includes your own personal preparation. Setting the stage also includes your own personal preparation. Being a passive participant, you can do the reading and show up and twiddle your thumbs, but if you're the facilitating mentor, the leader, or a scholar, a participant who really wants to get the most value out of it, then it's your role to keep it interesting. It's your role to handle questions. It's your role to direct traffic, help draw others out, and lead them to new epiphanies. This takes a real investment to show up prepared. You read it, review it, and if possible, reread it. You will think about it, have several little discussions with others. You will look up reviews, articles, commentaries, additional questions, etc., about this book and about the author, and maybe, depending on what type of book it is, the historical context of which it was written, either written about or when it was published. The thing that tends to separate the facilitator from just idle participants is the time that the facilitator puts in thinking about the book they're going to discuss. When you've put in the work to have a lot of epiphanies and realizations, you'll have a lot of enthusiasm to share. This is a good lesson for participants and for times that you aren't leading. Don't just sit back and wait to be given insights. Act like you are going to need to lead out. Come ready. You will have a far better learning and growing experience as a participant this way, as a leading participant, not just an idle participant. It's a great way to develop the capacity as a parent, as a mentor, and as a leader in the future. So with this, when the time is right and the group is ready, having participants take turns leading a discussion is extremely valuable. You still come prepared to lead it. You're the backup, and you're the support for them. Now, you get the opportunity to walk. It's a hard, but really an inspiring experience. Most will be far better participants once they've experienced what it's like to lead out in a discussion. But again, that's usually more for older students or for a more veteran experienced group. Don't do it on day one. You want to do a couple of repeated times together, a couple of discussions together. Show them what it's like to model it, and you, if you need to go through that learning process, you experience it several times first, and then start walking people through that process of leading it for themselves. All right, so that's the setting of the stage. Now, as people come to the stage, the discussion itself, how you welcome them, how you greet everyone as they come in is a critical component. That first initial greeting is going to break a lot of ice. You want it to be warm, you want it to be friendly, you want a big smile, a good handshake. Consider your hygiene, your breath, your clothes. You want to communicate openness, confidence, and not have any distractions. You want them to be focused on their learning, on their discussion, on sharing with others, and not you. So a good, warm, friendly welcome goes a long, long way of helping participants feel comfortable and willing to put in the work to gain a transformational experience. Ask them what is something they have learned or something interesting they experienced recently. So this is all a little bit of small talk before you actually start the discussion. As they're filing in, say, oh, welcome, sit down next to them or greet them at the door, and just have a few moments asking them a little bit about their day, about their week. Take interest in them and their lives outside of the book and the group that you're discussing with. It goes a long way in helping them open up, to connect, to share ideas, and to actually effectively learn. We want to start great. Have people engaged and enthusiastic from the get-go. If we forget to warm up, think of it this way: anything that is cold and then exposed to intense heat can cause damage. Steel, under freezing conditions, can do really well. But if you take cold steel and introduce it to high heat, it warps. Even really strong, tough metals will warp and damage. Small talk is a brilliant way to warm things up so that when the time for discussion comes, we're ready to go. And then you don't have to spend the first 5 or 10 minutes of discussion warming everything up. Although if you're in a position where you can't get there early, or enough participants aren't there early enough, and you can't do the warm-up talk before you start, then when the timing starts, then you can open up and take the first few minutes to warm up the discussion, warm up the conversation. It's not that you have to have every single individual speaking, but asking a few, what was a fun experience this week, and you have 1 or 2 or 3 people share something fun, something exciting that happened to them this week, get a little bit of a story time. Oh, that's fun, that, oh, this happened to me, did that, sweet. Well, I'm really excited. And then you transition it into, oh, I'm excited to discuss this book that we've been reading. Everybody pull out your books and open it up. So that start, you're going to have the welcome, and as much as you can, having the welcome before the discussion actually starts, before the time actually starts, have that be a warm, friendly opening. Get everybody warmed up, sharing, talking about a something, anything, nothing hard or difficult, but something really simple and basic. It's a few words or 1 minute, just a really simple warm up, and then the start of the discussion. When the time to start the actual discussion, it is important to keep in mind the governing principles of leadership. There is no real tactical or strategic correct way to start a discussion. In fact, it will be different depending on the audience and what the topic is. If it's a younger group with teens, or if it's adults, there will be different approaches that are needed. If they're more astute with discussion, if they're more open or more closed, it just depends on your audience. So if they are brand new to group discussions or to this group discussion, because sometimes they're really great discussers, but they're just not comfortable, or they don't really know anybody in this new group yet, and so it takes the time to warm up. Be aware of that. You might need a little bit of time at the beginning, or a few classes, for people to fully warm up and to start to open up more, and for the discussions to go deeper and to get better. Don't get bogged down in too much technical techniques, but do make a game plan for your discussion that you're going into. Have a strong start. So I don't mean a game plan necessarily for the whole thing, but to start off strong, have a opening statement, an opening question, an opening quote from the book, an opening experience, or from somebody you know. Invite somebody to share something that they've experienced or shared with you, or whatever. Have something to get you off really quick, really fast, so that it doesn't fall flat in the first 1 to 5 minutes. So let's go through a few scenarios to help understand what a strong start could be, what it could look like. And we'll break it down. I'll start with a few bullet points for if it's a new group and if it's a more veteran group. There's a little bit of differences. Again, a lot of similarities, a lot of overlaps, but there's a few differences if they're new or a more veteran or a more familiar group. So if it's a new group, opening with introductions can be really helpful. Having them share their name, a hobby, something they enjoyed, something that nobody knows about them, whatever, come with the game plan with a specific question, so you're not fumbling around and trying to guess and make up something on the spot. Come with the game plan, start strong, start with good momentum, show them you're the leader, you're in charge, and it's okay. We can be comfortable. You're going to guide them. You're not going to leave them floundering. So open up with introductions for a brand new group. Take too much for this, but taking the first 5, maybe 10-ish minutes for icebreakers, a little game, toss in the bean bag and say one thing about your name and one thing about you, or come with this simple activity. that's ready to go with 1 to 3 questions, that can be a great way to warm up and get the group connected and more familiar at the get-go. If it's a veteran group, then from time to time, have a different opening or a different type of discussion. Maybe do a mini simulation. They walk in, you don't say anything, you don't greet them, you just hand them a piece of paper that gives them their directive. Or you guide them into a room that you don't usually meet in and give them the mini simulation, you walk out. That one's really fun because they're all looking at like, oh, what's going on? It's off the wall. It can be a mini simulation or a workshop where instead of just doing a book discussion, you're actually going to just do a seminar or a lecture. You're going to teach them, or they're going to come together and act something out, or they're going to do a law school mini seminar where, all right, this book we read, we have this argument and we have this argument. So this half of the room, you're going to be pro, this half of the room, you're going to be con. And then halfway through the class, you say, okay, stop. These are great debates, great discussion. We're going to swap. Now this half of the room, you were con, now you're going to be pro. On this side, you were pro, now you're going to be con. And you have them switch right in the middle, and sometimes that can just change things up. It breaks up the monotony, it makes it new, and it's a great learning experience. Now, doing that every single time isn't always very valuable. Oh, there's one other one that's really good to do. Instead of doing a discussion, you say, all right, make sure you have a pen and paper, or give them a notebook or whatever that's on hand that they can use for this. Come prepared. Have them write an impromptu, spur of the moment paper or speech. And maybe have them pick their favorite quote and give a 5-minute speech about something, or you sit down and you give them 30 minutes and have them write a paper, a 2 or 3 page paper about what they read, about a question that you posed to them, or about an idea somebody brought. Whatever the case is, have them write a paper or write a speech and then present it to the class about what you were reading. So instead of doing a discussion, these are just a few ideas. There's a whole bunch of other things that you could do. With those, have several of them ready for the school year and spread them out over time. The general class that you want to do, the general book discussion you want to do, is to sit down, ask a question, go to their favorite part, and discuss the actual book. Dig into the actual text. But there are books, there's sometimes in your blank page brainstorm, something will come up, or the students, they're losing their enthusiasm and they need a change, they need to shift, they need something different. Having something that you can bring in to revitalize the energy, not be in the same monotonous activity flow, can really help. So having something that changes it up and have it ready and planned. Have a good, strong start, a good, strong direction. It's okay for you to stop, to ponder, to think, to consider, to feel, to even take a moment to quietly pray or meditate. Let them see you considering, to feel it out, to say, all right, what is the right thing? And you can plan certain days that you do this, like I mentioned earlier, or certain books or current events, and plan around those. But often having several activities or workshops just handy, so that if you need it at the spur of a moment to change things up or help reinvigorate the energy, often you just won't exactly know when their enthusiasm and drive will drift or slacken. Having something pre-planned that you can pull out when needed is a powerful tool in the Facilitators tool belt. So a strong start, what that might look like, is start with a fun question, a simple question, or a statement. Give an inspirational speech followed by a fun and or simple question. So the question can go either before, and then you model how you want them to answer the question, or you can give the inspiration modeling it and then ask them the question. So with new groups, lean into this opening. Let it be 5 to 15 minutes long. Really go all out. Bring the energy, bring the passion, the enthusiasm for this book. Show your love of learning and show them how to do that same thing of pulling quotes from the book, sharing ideas. And with veteran groups, you may not need a big long opening speech. Sometimes you can just jump right into a great question that draws them in and gets them talking. However, it is usually still a good idea to start with a strong, passionate introduction to set the mood, to set the tone, to set the energy, to help open everybody up, to get them excited and teach them something new and inspiring, to have your opportunity to mentor, to teach. So this opening inspirational presentation, it's not about showing them how cool you are, although you are really cool. And they start thinking you're pretty cool when you can do that consistently, and it's pretty amazing and it's fun and they're inspired and whoa. So you are cool. But we have to remember the principles of leadership. What is our purpose of the discussion? It's about modeling the behavior you want them to do. You want them to emulate. So share a story about your experience with the book. Pull out a quote from the book and unpack it, expound on it. Share why that quote or that story is relevant to your life. Give them a model to pattern. So after this strong start, they are now primed for you to pitch out a question. Give a clear invitation for others to step in and share what they really care about. Sometimes it's hard to know what question will be inspiring, engaging, and really valuable. So take time to consider some great questions during your reading and preparations. But you just showed them what to do and how to do it. So now you're going to ask them to share a little bit for themselves through the book. You're opening up their soul. Remember this. Book discussions aren't about the book. It's about the participating souls. It's not about the book. It's not about the specific content or the specific learning content. That is valuable, and that is a secondary or tertiary result that we do desire. We want great education. We want great learning. But the pilot is developing souls. A highly valuable and reliable question I recommend for nearly any situation, whether it's new or veteran group, is this. Okay, what did you guys like most about this book? Or some variation of that, like, okay, what is your favorite quote from the reading? That's it. That's all it takes. This casual, unscripted, and really basic question is a goldmine of learning and inspiration. And it provides so many teachable moments. It's not a lesson plan with checkboxes we have to get through. We've all been in classes like this before, right? Where the teacher will ask a question, but the discussion is surface level, the answers are surface level, and often the discussion is cut short because there are 10 other points and questions that the teacher has planned and needs to get through. So allowing for time to govern the discussion and not the scripted content plan has a lot of value. There are definitely times when there should be a content plan, but then it's a lecture, not a discussion, which is totally fine. That's a great class. It just shouldn't be every class. Or maybe even do it as a workshop where there is some interaction in Q&A, but it's about the mentoring being issued, not as much the discussion, not as much about their participation. So a lecture or workshop are great options. They shouldn't be the general class though. So this question also gives the group permission to go wherever they want. Especially for those coming off the conveyor belt, this can be a refreshing approach. In a world where most educational experiences, including discussions, are largely planned, structured, and pretty predictable. This is why the mentor leader really needs to prepare. If you want your participants to really learn and have a transformational experience, then we need to be able to go where they can have epiphanies, to open up, to think, to share. Don't seek to entertain them through the time you have, but truly experience something transformational. Each time a participant takes us to a quote, a section, a note, an idea, it's like starting a new mini simulation where they get to teach, to explain, to answer questions, to inspire others, and so many other beneficial nuggets come out of that experience when the student takes it on for themselves. Others will have questions or learn from the different perspective or spark an epiphany they want to share. When there's a lull in the discussion, you can share another quote that you love, then send it back to the group. Again, you're going to model it, You're going to message it, and then you're going to invite them to do what you just did. Or it can be really valuable to restate the question and then just shut your mouth. Sit there, warm, friendly, calm, and patiently waiting for someone to speak. Sometimes it only takes 30 seconds. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes. That silence can be such a valuable mentoring experience. For more advanced groups I've been working with, I'll sit back and I wait as long as they take, like the 10 minutes. That's actually happened to me a few times. They didn't like it very much. But it's not my job to entertain them. A more advanced group needs to know that they own their own education, that this experience is theirs. I'm not here to spoon feed them. They're here to learn. New groups, I don't let it go 10 minutes. I'll fill it out and I'll just follow my gut. I'll do the best to discern, all right, when is it time for me to step in, and how long do some of these students need to build up the courage to open their mouth and speak. I don't want to ever cut somebody else off. As much as I can, I want to draw them out. And that silence is a key component to allowing others to speak. They're just waiting. They're sitting, a lot of times they'll sit back and shut off. They won't be thinking of anything. They won't be trying to find a quote to share because they know, oh, the teacher's going to say something. The teacher will handle it. I don't need to do anything, so I can just sit back. But if you give them an actual long, awkward pause, that dead silence, that boredom, some of the students will start to step up. And hopefully, eventually, over the course of the class period, the time they have together, everybody will start stepping up and say, oh no, they're serious. They actually want to hear my thoughts. They don't just have a lesson plan checkboxes that we have to get through. And so when they ask what other thoughts are there, they're not asking that because that's what it says in the teacher manual or in the study guide, or that's what you're supposed to do because that's what people teach teachers to do, is ask questions and we're supposed to have a discussion. But really, they're just trying to get through their lesson plan. And they only want me to give surface level answers, to give basic, simple, really plain answers. We don't want to actually dig into something or wrestle with an idea. But if we give them that dead space, that silent space, they start to open up. Again, follow your gut. Know when it's time to step in. Model what you want them to do. Follow your gut. I've done that sometimes where the students just aren't really engaging. And so I'll go off on a 5-minute inspirational speech about some quote. I'll flip through and find something. Sometimes I'll literally just open the book, grab something, and just start making this random thing amazing. Because I want them to know there is value in this book, even from unnoticeable areas. That's my role as a facilitator, as a guide, as a teacher, is to help them realize that there is value here for our personal daily lives that will help us in our crises, that will give us fun, interesting insights. But they have to know that this is their education. This is theirs. And whatever they're going to put into it is what they're going to get out of it. And they're not going to ruin some plan that I have. I always have at least 3 quotes that I really want to share, that I feel like are really valuable and important, that I hope that they saw or understood that I'm going to share. So I'm going to open up with one, and then I'll share 1 or 2 smaller ones in the middle, or as discussion goes and pops up, but then I'll close it with my third, with the big, powerful, inspirational close. But before we get there, I often get asked at this point, as we're talking about the students owning their own education, giving them that silence time to think, to ponder, to get the courage to open up and realizing that, no, I'm serious. I actually want you to speak. Now, I'm just going to sit here and stare at you guys with a nice smile until some of you guys talk. Again, with the advanced ones, I'll do that for a long period of time until they talk. I will not break the silence. If it's an advanced group that I've been working with and mentoring for a time, we know each other, I will not talk. I'm sitting back and now it's yours. If it's a newer group that we're teaching and developing, they're still growing and learning this experience, they're early to mid scholars, then okay, I'm going to help it along a little bit more. I'm going to step in after 30 seconds, after a minute, after 2 minutes of silence. I'll step in and say, oh, here's another quote I have. And I often get asked at this point, what about starting with a question about critiques or what people disliked. Why not start there? Honestly, this doesn't usually bear as much valuable learning fruit as digging into the positives and what everyone else liked. There will be many times when someone brings up something they liked, and someone will jump in and say, "Really? You liked that? I had such a hard time with that," which is a great response. And then either I or the student who brought up the thing that they liked will ask, "Oh, why didn't you like it?" And then we get to find a way to heal the issue, to try and convince them, or at least share the viewpoints of, all right, they liked it and you didn't like it, and why? Let's dig into this. This is interesting. And the mentoring value in the book that this has, this experience or the opportunity to teach good methods of criticism, are so valuable through that process. The conveyor belt system and a lot of the intellectual elites and reviews of books and movies, they may seem novel or cool or deep because they can find holes and problems in what someone else painstakingly labored over to create. Anyone can criticize, but not that many do the effort of creation. And if it's a classic, there will be way more positives than negatives. Everything will have its shortcomings and its weak points. Don't let that distract us from the value and mentoring we can gain from it. If the group is more of a veteran group, you can start with that question of what did you dislike? Or what criticisms do you have about this work? Or sometimes part way through the discussion, you can shift it and bring up that question, ask what everybody struggled with or disliked. And with newer groups, that's usually, depending on the book, once in a while I might do that. Or if somebody brings up something and say, well, I didn't actually like the book. I was like, oh, that's great. Why not? And if they bring it up, I'm all in. Let's discuss it. Let's unpack this. Why didn't you like it? Let's have that conversation. Because usually there's something really good to learn there. Either for the rest of us to say, hey, you know what, you're right. This is a real problem, and I didn't realize that before. Or for the student who had the issue to say, oh no, I was totally seeing it the wrong way. You guys have convinced me this is actually a really phenomenal book. And I love those experiences. Those students, when they bring up an issue that they have with the book or something they didn't like about the book, and then they get convinced and they change their mind of why it really is amazing, those are sometimes the most valuable learning experiences. It's important to have that conversation, but starting with what's terrible about this book creates a very different energy and mood and direction and thought pattern than, all right, what did you like? And somebody being brave enough to say, oh, I didn't like it. So, oh, that's fine. What about it didn't you like? Or why didn't you like it? Or what about this character? What was this issue? And then you can validate, discuss, open up, and go through the process of cultivating souls. It's not about specific content that we have to get through or learn. And used at the right time, either in a course, throughout multiple discussions, or at the right time in one discussion itself to bring up that question, it can be a breath of fresh air. Because if we're always asking, well, what did you like? What did you enjoy? And then at some point you bring up and say, okay, this is great. I love this book. But what did you guys not like? That sometimes can, again, be a breath of fresh air, giving everyone permission to recognize the failings of the book. Because they usually have some. But then ending on a positive allows us to have respect for the book and what we can learn from it, even with its shortcomings. This is a powerful lesson. This lesson will seep into their relationships, their mission, their careers, their social and political interactions. Do they ask, what are the positives or what are the negatives? Am I a critic or am I seeking to learn and to gain? And any interaction we have, any relationship we have, am I going to first ask, all right, what's wrong with this person? Or am I going to look for what's good in that person and shine a spotlight on it? Say, oh man, you rubbed me the wrong way, this way and that way, but man, you've got this gift or this talent, you've got this genius, and that is special. And when we can point that out, when we can detect that thing that is special, that we can learn from, that we can grow from, or that they can impact and change the world with, they tend to become more of that thing. When we feed the light, it grows. If we feed the dark, it grows. Okay. Here are some additional questions you could use during a discussion. Do you like how the book ended? Why or why not? Who was your favorite character in the book and why? Who is your least favorite character in the book? Why? Is this character redeemable? Why or why not? Did this book make you feel more happy or sad? Or some other emotion? What do you think is the main theme or the thesis of this book? With all these, the follow-up is why or why not? You ask a question that can often have a 1 or 2 word answer. It's this character, or no, I didn't like the end of the book, or it's this is the thesis or the theme of this book. And it's usually a pretty simple statement that you can give. It's a very easy answer for anybody to say. And you ask the group, and they can all say it all at the same time, and then you can pick out some and say, oh, that's interesting. Why did you say this person, or why did you say that thesis? And then asking why makes us peel back the layers and think about it, make a case for it, put words to it, and try to convince everybody else why you think that or why you picked that character. In most cases, there is no right or wrong answer. It's a very safe form of discussion. Then somebody else will say, oh, really? Well, you love that character? Well, that was actually my least favorite character. And then you can have this great discussion going back and forth of saying, all right, what did you see that you liked? What did you see that you didn't like, and why? And a lot of the times in discussions I've had like that between students, we end up saying, yeah, you're both right. You're both right. And the way you're looking at it and the way you feel, that is a hero. And the way you're looking at it and the perspective, you're right, that is a villain. And sometimes they're both right. It's fascinating. Powerful learning experiences. And sometimes we realize, oh, okay, maybe it isn't the hero. Maybe they are more of a villain. And we'll take one or the other side. But asking some of these pretty simple, basic questions, helping them draw out, helping them pull, as best you can, maybe give other promptings and reiterate what they were arguing or saying or trying to say. Saying, oh, are you saying this? Because sometimes reiterating it, it tells them that you hear them, you see them. You're validating what they're saying. And sometimes they'll say, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm like, okay, can you explain it another way? And it gives them the opportunity to share, to open, to teach, and especially to think. Here's a few more questions that are really fun, especially for literature. If you could be inserted into this story, at what point would you want to enter it? And what would you do? So if you got to be a character in this, what would you do? Who would you be? Where would you be inserted into this story? That can be a really fun discussion to have. If you could insert a character from any other story you've read, and you could put them into this story, who would that character be? Who would you take from somewhere and put them in? Who is your character? And where in the story would you put them? And why did you pick that character? And what are they going to do? Those two bring up more theoretical conversations and discussions, and it's a good way to open up the energy and the flow. If people are getting unenthusiastic, they pull something from somewhere that they love, that they're excited about, and infuse it into this story. All of a sudden, this story brings new meaning, has new life, and it can re-engage everybody in the group back into the discussion into this particular book. Saying, how would I be plugged into this? Interesting. What would I do? And now all of a sudden you're looking at it through your own lens. Now you're creating this personal experience, this simulation. If I were in this book, where would I be and what would I do? What powerful, deep thoughts that can bring in. Or bringing in other characters. Why this character and how would they impact this story? And why? Now they're looking at ways of writing the story themselves. Using their imagination to improve it, to fix it, or to stop something bad. And it can be a fascinating mental exercise and a really fun, engaging, theoretical universe type of playing around. It can be a lot of fun and a lot of value. Let's put this into a nice little framework that we can leverage into some steps, a process to help us remember. But first, remember this is just one framework to help you get started. Ultimately, seek to learn and master the principle of facilitating, of mentoring, of leading discussions. and do what is right and best for your particular group, for the specific book, and at the specific moment in time that you're discussing it. You do this largely through the blank page process, and then implementing the principles of the 7 keys of great teaching, overlapped with the phases of learning. You do those 3 things, and you're going to be just fine. Leverage blank page mentoring, the 7 keys, and the phases. You line those up, and you're going to have truly transformational discussions. Here's the overview, this framework on how to have great discussions. Number 1, effectively communicate the expectations. Number 2, make a game plan of how to start the discussion. Number 3, have a friendly and upbeat welcome. Number 4, share an inspiring thought for a few minutes at the beginning. Number 5, ask for favorite quotes, insights, and epiphanies. Number 6, continue your inspiring leadership through the rest of the discussion. Number 7, take the last few minutes to give a summary or a transformational insight. Leave them inspired and excited to go on and read, discuss a lot, and seek mentoring. And for the next class, if it's an ongoing class. Take this framework, these 7 simple basic steps, practice it, master it, and have fun with inspiringly transformational discussions.